Faces and Heels podcast. One handsome devil. Your host, Jack Purcell. Scissor me, daddy ass. Louis Perry, here comes. Don't forget to subscribe and click the bell. Faces and Heels podcast.
Welcome to the Faces and Heels podcast, season 1, 2, 3, 4. And we're coming in hot with one of the most popular referees in the Northeast, Gina Monti.
Me. Hello. Hi, everyone.
She's already here.
Yeah. Surprise.
Louis, can't you get the tech guys to figure it out? Come on.
Yeah, well, nah. Like I said,
Get your crew
I
under
was
control.
I was kissing hands and shaking babies all weekend long. I'm too tired. Okay.
Well, get your crew to do the work. Come on. What do you mean?
I was there. Hey, I'm the whole effing show. All right. I was with the man of your dreams. I was the man with Gina's dreams, with everyone's dreams this weekend. I was getting compliments from the man himself, the man
Freddie?
with the iron fingers. That's right. He was giving me compliments. And, dude, I was having some fun. Eric, what's going on? Welcome back, boys. Long time no see.
Hi,
Eric
Eric.
Hunting. Yeah, Eric
Hi,
Hunting's here. Welcome back, boys. Long time no see. Ref Gina, exclamation point.
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
All right. Well, you know,
Talk amongst yourselves.
you can name drop some more. We'll talk Freddie. You guys hugging. Hopefully the nails didn't scratch you. We'll get into
Mick
that.
Foley, he was giving out free action figures on stage with me. It was pretty wild.
Oh, cool. So
Wow.
where were you?
Doing my job.
Oh, your job. Okay.
Well, Gina
Not
doesn't
this
know where
past-
your job was this time.
Oh, okay.
So
Well,
maybe somebody else, your listeners might not know.
She
I don't
volleyed that right up for you, brother.
I'm
Come on.
answering. I'm asking the questions here.
This past weekend I was at this past weekend I was at Altered Reality Entertainment's TerraCon. Oh wait, hold on. Let me,
That sounds cool.
let me do that a little bit better. Me. This past weekend I was at Altered Reality Entertainment's TerraCon.
There it is.
Oh my God, that's such a cool effect.
That was better. That was better.
Yeah, that was great. Yeah.
All right.
Awesome.
That was a little better.
Nice job. Hey, Glenn Portman says, welcome back, guys. All right. Hey, Glenn.
What's going on, Glenn?
All right. People didn't forget about us. It's always reassuring.
Yeah, that's great. That's
Yeah.
great. That's great.
How can
always
they
a
not
good
forget? How could they forget? I talked about us on Angry Geeks.
Oh,
They asked me. And you're
okay.
on the Angry Geeks network. You're on the Angry Geeks website, your mug. I hawk your art.
Right. That's true. That's
How
all
could they
true.
forget about you? We
Can
were
we just
promoting
talk
Gina-
about your latest work with the Andy Brown photo?
Oh,
That was so cool. I saw that at Wrestling Open when it was announced on Twitter, and he was right next to me when I was just like, Andy, did you see this? So neat. So
that's awesome.
Yes,
Oh,
it was awesome.
yeah, thank you. Yeah, he's a great dude. Like he's like the
Mhm.
most appreciative, youthful energy ever. Like when he saw that, he was too funny. His reactions. He was messaging me, and I was like, "Oh my god, man! This is like he's like got the most genuine enthusiasm for it." So, yeah, that's awesome that you guys were all there and saw it. That was a lot of fun to do. And by the way, we're going to talk about one of the upcoming trading cards. As long as it gets your thumbs up, we're going to have 2 referee cards that are going to be part of the 24-piece collection. We're 14 in, and a Gina Monti and Bill Thompson card are on the horizon.
Oh, that's so nice. Okay, I'm excited for that, but
All right.
I won't spoil that. You know, we could study the course.
Okay. All right. We will do that. Will Yates says, so glad you're back. And Eric Hunting says, trading cards. Eric Hunting, You have the complete collection. What are you talking about over there? Must have. Yes, that's correct. Yeah, Eric Hunting. I know he's got all 14 so far. There's 10 more coming.
Yeah, Eric is awesome.
Eric is awesome. And it's funny because you and almost every single guest we've had on for 4 years knows who Eric is. Like, he doesn't need an introduction.
Yeah, he's great. He's just like a really very big supporter of independent wrestling. And I feel like people like that definitely need their shout outs too. So here's your flowers. Is there like a flower sound effect that you use? I don't know.
You want
like,
let's see if we have
like a
a
piano
flower sound effect.
That doesn't sound like it. That was terrible.
Yes, we do.
Sure. Let's just go with it. Not that one. The other one.
Come on.
Yeah.
Number one, Lewis. Number
Okay.
one.
Yeah, no.
Hey, we've already got a question, Lewis. If you don't mind, I'm going to let Glenn ask the first question. You feel okay about that?
Absolutely.
I know you're tired. So, Gina, Glenn wants to know, how did you get started refereeing?
So I come from the Test of Strength Wrestling School. That's in East Hartford, Connecticut. And I was
Jimmy
just,
Mees.
Yes, Jimmy Mees.
That's my good friend.
Yeah, he's great. I love Jimmy.
Mm-hmm.
So I pretty much like got recruited into it. Wagner says he always recruited me. He just kind of like saw me at a lot of these independent shows. So a lot of us just start off being fans. We still are fans. And he said, hey, do you want to try a free class? I think you got what it takes to wrestle. I'm like, okay, I'll give it a shot. Then I tried wrestling practice and I'm like, I hate this. It hurts so bad. Why do you want to do this all the time? So I took a step back and said, I still want to like find a way to get involved. But I don't know about wrestling. So I told him about that. And he just kind of like let me hang out at shows and do very small tasks. I actually think my first task was sewing the ref logos on the uniform, and getting people like saying, hey, you're up for your next match, etc. Then eventually when I started going back into training, he asked me to ref a practice match, and that's kind of it. So sometimes you have to take a little bit to figure out what your role is going to be. There's a lot of different stuff that you can do. I still do different stuff like camera operation. So yeah, that's basically the story. Thanks for your question.
Yeah, you seem very tech savvy. Like you also seem like somebody who's versatile, which I think makes you useful in any industry. Do you feel like are you refereeing like 90% and doing maybe camera operation 10%? Like, how would you say that ratio breaks down?
Yeah, I think it also depends on like what's going on. So Wrestling Open was actually the first promotion that I started doing camera operation. And they stuck me in with the hard job, which was roaming cam, which is basically like you're on the side of the ring. That's a very, very, very hard job. I think it's dangerous, the hardest job. It is dangerous because, you have to be looking at the camera, looking around, making sure that no one jumps on you. It's like a lot of stuff like that. So cables. Oh my God, you gotta be careful with the cables, make sure no one trips on it. So it's also Wrestling Open where it's standing room and people around you as well. Sometimes you get lucky in which there's like a barricade next to you. So you have that clearance, not so much over there. But for the most part, I was pretty much coached by Jerry at IWTV what to do. Someone was just like out and he said, hey, are you available? We could use you for camera. And then I started doing like more hard cam stuff too, which is less dangerous. You're away from everything. You're stationary. You get like, I don't really have to move here. This is nice. So yes, I did start doing that this year though. So I'd say it's a very new venture. Every now and then I might be asked to fill in for somebody, but yeah, camera operation is a very important job. So I'm glad to.
Gina, were you a fan before you got involved?
Yes. So, yep.
Who was your preference?
For wrestlers?
Yeah.
So I really like Jacob Fatu. I think he's absolutely awesome. Especially I like people who are also very technical, like Timothy Thatcher. I was lucky enough to actually ref one of his matches when I was in Tennessee a few months ago for Scenic City Invitational. That was pretty fun. On the independents right now, there's just like so many great people to work with. Becca, I love doing Becca's matches. She gets mad at me a lot, but like I still think that they're very fun. And to see the way that she's also just improved so much over the amount of time that I've known her, because she started, I think, at Bell Time Club, which was a sister school of TOS. So like Marina Brown, who's my trainer, and Bo Douglas, who was her trainer, were best friends when they were younger and went to Killer Kowalski School of Wrestling. So yeah, seeing her, just spring into wrestling and just adapt to it so well is really cool. There's just like so many great talent that's coming up through the independents right now. But yes, I'd say that Gail Kim is another one. I love Gail Kim. Yeah, she's so great. She went so hard on her matches. And when I was starting to watch like TNA at the time, I thought that was a really cool alternative to WWE. You had different type of people on there. So yeah, in any case, there's a lot. So I'll probably keep going if given the time to. So we'll just say with those people. Like, so many great people to be appreciative of their talents.
Absolutely. It's a treasure trove, especially in the Northeast. Eric Hunting says, one of my favorite memories of Gina was her refereeing Jake Hagar.
Yeah. So at Blitzkrieg, that was also, I think, big time. They did a type of like show that, not a double header. They collaborated. It was a collaboration show. I think in Enfield, Connecticut. It was in one of the like big magnet schools there. That was like probably the biggest crowd that I've reffed in front of before at the time. So it was him versus Richard Holiday, and they were all very, very large men. They were very big. When I lifted up his arm, when Jake Hager won, his arm like kind of went out to here instead of like up, and I was just like, oh my God, that's embarrassing. So I learned to grab the elbow with those larger people. Grab the elbow.
Yeah, I mean, it's a smart move. I think I'd be doing the same thing. I'm like, well, how am I going to do this? I got to get a step ladder.
Or get a step ladder if you can.
But, I mean, sometimes under the ring, there's ladders, right? So it's possible.
That can be, right. The elbow's a little bit easier, I guess.
Yeah, no, definitely. You're less likely to fall over, which is a positive. I guess I'm curious. You mentioned Becca. And I don't know if you have an opinion about this or if you even want to get into it, but there's a lot of mixed opinions about the whole PWI 500, which just came out. And I believe Becca was the most, was elevated the highest from last year's list. I think she was like 167 or something this year. But what do you think about the PWI 500? Do you pay attention to any of that stuff about who's sitting on the top 500, or is it irrelevant?
I feel like that question might be better asked towards a wrestler because they probably have a better perspective of it. But it is exciting to see a lot of people who I've started with, Ichiban in particular.
Number one.
Like one of my favorite friends. He started training at the school, I think, about a year when I started at TOS. So he's been a very integral part to training. And that whole growth in wrestling and seeing how much he's exploded, much like Becca, they just, shot up like so high. But Becca, seeing her get that much elevation was really exciting. And I have to say that must have been hard to do too, because I think she also came back from injury pretty recently. So I would also imagine that Wrestling Open possibly gave her more of a spotlight because it is a weekly show that's live. So not only her, but also other people like Ichibod, who is a Wrestling Open champion.
Number one.
Number one. And, other people as well, who are a part of that product for a while. So I think I'm more interested to see what the tag team PWI is going to be like, just because like I felt like everything that I have seen, I haven't seen the whole list of the 500, was pretty much placed where it should be. But yeah, it's always exciting to see other people get on there. But as in terms of like a referee, it's probably a little bit different than if you ask like a wrestler. They might have a different perspective on it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like sometimes, especially in pro wrestling, it can be challenging for people to wrap their heads around the referee's role. I think it's sort of like, I think when the referees are doing their jobs well, they're almost invisible in a way. But you're everywhere. I feel like we'll kind of touch on it a little bit more, but I feel like you've had so much experience working for all these companies, not only in the Northeast, but, companies that are bigger than that. And I was just reading, I believe it was today, some of the names that for the WWE's latest tryout, and there's guys like, Rich Holiday, Ray Jazz, people you're really familiar with from, you mentioned Wrestling Open, are going to be trying out. Do you ever have like thoughts about that? Like, oh wow, like it's almost, I imagine, a mixed bag of thoughts. Like, wow, that'd be great for them if they were to say make it to NXT, WWE, but at the same time, kind of a bummer that they're leaving the indies.
Yeah, I see what you mean. I think for me, it was Alex Reynolds because I feel like the more people I work with mostly get called up to AEW and ROH rather than WWE. Because WWE also has like their times where they dip into the independents and then other times where they dip into college, like A division. I don't know what it's actually called, but they look like for college athletes and stuff. So I would say that from that list that was posted for those taking a tryout, Richard Holiday, I feel like was just kind of a no-brainer. I knew he was going to get picked up at some point. Of course, with situations that he was in, and had a little bit of a setback. Plus, he was also signed to MLW at the time.
Right.
So, that's not it wasn't a surprise, but I'm still happy for him. Seeing Jay Malakai's name on there in particular, especially when he picked up a huge win at Deadlock Pro over the weekend. Probably almost killed himself doing it too from the clips that I've seen. Sometimes you just like find some really cool surprises. But I'd say that, yeah, Alex Reynolds made me a little sad when he left to go to AEW because I really, really, really loved the Handsome Devil, like character that he was doing on the independents. And it was like really starting to dial into like, I'm working with someone who's like a really, really good wrestler on this level. And I was happy to have the few matches that I had with him when he was working at 01 USA Northeast, when that was still running before he left. But yeah, there's just like a bunch of people who I feel sad about. But the nice thing about AEW, at least, is that they can work independents every now and then. Daniel Garcia and Wheeler Yuta in particular were ones I was just like, man, I did that 60-minute match with them on the independents, and then like they just got taken away. I'll never see them again. Yes, but
never say never.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But in any case, I think I mostly know and work with people who go to AEW more than WWE. So, of course, good luck to everybody at those tryouts. I hope that they do a really great job and work as hard as they can.
All right, Jack. Glenn Portman come in with a question. Then we have Eric Hunting right on top of him.
Okay. Glenn Portman is asking if you have any favorite refs.
I'm always going to say Bryce Remsburg because he also got me my job at Shakara very like for a few shows before it was over. And I think that he's just like a really good, positive force to be around. I'd say that ref Stefan at AEW especially has been a really good mentor. He's been like absolutely fantastic. And of course, like that whole crew of people is just like awesome. Though I haven't met Aubrey and Bryce in person for the couple of times that I've been to those tapings. They're always readily available. Paul Turner is also great. Of course, you watch his stuff at Ring of Honor. He's just like been around, and watching like how much like he's kind of like grown in that like super experienced way is really interesting. But yeah, I don't know. Of course, Bill Thompson too.
Yeah, he's one of my favorites too.
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
The hair is so great. Like I love drawing him. He's just a cool character.
Has he told you about his story with Sue Young?
No.
I think it was her, and I apologize if that's wrong, but she used to spray like mist. So she had like a pink or red mist that he was in a match with her, and she sprayed it, and he had like this pink red streak in his hair for like 3 months. It was a long time. It was like this front strand, and I said, so when I saw that first, I was kind of like, I didn't want to say anything because I didn't want to be like worried about it, but I was like, wow, Bill, like that's a really nice hair job. And he goes, like the dye job, I thought it was like just done by somebody. He goes, no, that was from that match. So that's a really good story.
That would have been even
s-
better if you showed up the next week with a matching pink stripe. Like,
Matching
really, you're
stripe.
setting trends, brother.
We're wearing it
speaking
together.
of match, what do you prefer to steer? What do you prefer to ref? A singles match, a tag match, or a specialty match?
I kind of thrive better with, I think, like the crazier matches, but I think it's just because I do death matches. So I mean, that's like the crazy stuff. But like I did a TLC match with Jordan Oliver and Marcus Mathers. I think that was like March or April of this year at ETU, and surprisingly, that just went like so well. But it also depends on like who's in the match too. If there's people who are not as experienced with like foreign objects or like weapons or something like that, then of course, there's like a lot of other things you have to like look out for. But singles could be great. I really like the mat technical wrestling with the singles matches. I did one with Daniel Makabe a while ago. I think like actually last year that was like he's very, very mat focused. So you have to be like super, super focused as well. Going like, all right, is that it? Is that it? So it was like kind of like those moments. But whatever the matches that like get me super into it, a really well paced tag match is also good too. And then there's other matches like scrambles that I love doing because it's crazy and I just have to get out of the way. The 4-way match that was at Blood, Sweat, and Tears was crazy. There's a lot of people in it. Mark jumped from the balcony. So, those always have like very interesting moments that will surprise you. I'm happy that he was okay though. That was a little scary for a moment.
That was scary. And
Yes.
you narrowly avoided Bobby Buffet squishing you in the corner at one point. I do recall that. So I thought you handled yourself so calmly during that because there's some big dudes in that match. Andy Brown, Lucas Chase,
Yes.
Bobby Buffet. I mean, those guys were moving.
Yeah. Bobby, I'm trying to remember what the thing was. Yeah, he kind of like those are also tough matches too because you have to also look around you on the floor of like who's going to slide in, and you don't want to be in the way. But every now and then, like sometimes you just get in the way, and it happens, especially if you have like 4 to 6 people in a match.
Yeah.
Have you suffered an injury refereeing yet?
I think like there a very, very, very long time ago when I was like first starting. There was a tag match where someone was breaking up the pin, and I think like our noggins collided. But I don't think it was anything like super serious. I kind of had like a little bit of a shiner. But no, luckily I haven't had like anything. So.
Well, I just want to say in a very not proud moment that I nearly sprained my ankle playing volleyball with my 14-year-old daughter this weekend. So
That's
it's
wonderful.
amazing. Yeah. I mean, I know I've torn my Achilles playing tag with her, but it's amazing that you could get through all these matches.
God, really?
Yeah. Crazy. I know it was not great. Not a proud moment, but it happened.
Oh my God.
But it's amazing because you're doing some pretty athletic stuff in there for a long period of time. Sometimes you're in there 15, 20 minutes, maybe longer. I mean, God, I'm hoping to knock on some wood that you continue to be injury free because you're putting yourself in some tough spots.
Me too. So
what was the longest match you were in the ring for?
60 minutes. That was Daniel Garcia and Wheeler Yuta.
That's what I was thinking because you mentioned that earlier.
Yeah, that one was very challenging because it was just so really like the heat in that building. I think it was probably about like 98 degrees or something like that. So no breaks. And it was like a lot of very technical wrestling there too. They only, I think, went to the outside like a couple of times in 60 minutes. And I was expecting that there would be like outside interference or something, especially when you wrestle for that long. But no, they just kept it in the ring. So that was like really challenging. I think we were all kind of like losing our minds towards the end of it. During the last 15 minutes, we were just like, oh my God, this is going on so long. Like they really just want to win.
Yeah, right.
Jack, Eric has a compliment here.
Yeah, and he's funny because I actually had a very similar thought, and as Gina mentioned at the BST show this weekend, Eric Hunting says Gina is one of the best belt presenters for a championship match, just so professional, and you had lots of opportunities at the BST show because every single title changed
Oh my
hands.
God, yeah. There were not only that, but there were just all kinds of championships. The Monarch Championship, the Tag Team Championships, I think were vacant. I think those were 2 that I didn't referee, but yeah, every one that I did was a championship. The ETU belt, and I've held that belt once before at the last ETU show in Jersey. It's like, I think close to 15 pounds. It's a pretty big belt. And when you like also lift it up like this, your shoulder muscles are like small. So I was just like, and I had to hold it there for like that shot too. And I was just like, this is such like a very big belt. So thanks. I'm glad that someone noticed it. I was actually kind of thinking to myself, because before I used to have it folded in and then presented up. But now that I've like been watching more TV, like refereeing, they usually have them out, which makes a lot of sense because you want to see the plates.
Right.
So yeah, except for tag team belts, you kind of like want to hold them up like this. Those could be also tough too if those are big and you need both of them. Yeah.
Do you have any influences of past referees or ones that made it to WWE, WCW, ECW?
When you mean influences, like just someone who like inspired
do you go
me?
back and watch? Yeah, do you go back and watch the Hebners or Dick Worry or Nick Patrick? Do you go back and watch any of the older refs and say, "Ooh, I like their style. I like how they
Sometimes
saw that match."
I think it's interesting too, because like if you do watch a lot of older referees and like matches, a lot of like what they do, you can't necessarily do now. Like camera work wasn't too much of a concern then, which makes sense because as a ref, you should probably like have the best view of anything. But if the audience can't like see something because you're standing in front of like the hard cam, so there's like a lot of that would see back in the day. Sometimes I would find some interesting stuff, but I honestly don't really do that very often. If anything, like a lot of people would even tell me to watch like UFC people and how they ref, because I think the dynamic of wrestling has like changed so much that there are times where I have to like roll in there and actually like grab somebody to stop, versus like, okay, I ring the bell, but then their hold is like, they're still like staying on, etc. Yeah, that's a good question though. I'd be interested to know if other referees have a different perspective on that.
So I'm curious too, because you've got such an enormous range of experience. I mean, basically any major promotion in the Northeast that I know of anyway, you've worked for, and I've seen you at Ring of Honor. Have you worked for MLW?
No, I haven't worked for MLW. I would like to. It would be a cool experience, especially seeing so many of like my people moving into MLW now. But no, I have not. Ring of Honor was my only TV experience.
Okay, because what I was thinking is that, I don't know how I would feel going into it, but I imagine working for every promotion's probably a little bit different. There might be, different call times, different expectations, different styles. Is that something where like when you work for a new promotion for the first time that you kind of have to figure out like exactly what it is they expect of you, and there isn't just sort of like with some wrestlers, they're not necessarily expected to tweak or change their styles, except for maybe like some TV like NXT or MLW where there might be camera concerns, like might be 3 cameras, you got to be aware of all the shots. But for you, is each one a different experience completely?
I think it depends on the style of matches. Like Blitzkrieg, for example, is a little bit looser with their rules, and they also have lucha tag rules as well. So with the lucha tag rules, it's harder to kind of enforce things because anybody could just leave the ring. And as soon as your both feet past the bottom rope is technically a legal tag. And then, of course, there's also like the the other legal tags as well. So I'd say that Blitzkrieg, it's a little bit more lax. I'd say that the camera work is pretty much the same throughout all places that I've been to, because they kind of adapt the same formula of like you have one central hard cam and then you have two that are roaming. So I try not to get in any of those shots, but every now and then I might, if it's like ICW No Holds Barred or Pit Fighter, where it's like death matches, glass and whatever. One of them I'll be refereeing on Saturday evening. Then I worry less about the cameras because, I mean, there's just stuff all over the place. I mean, you can't, you know. The pit, the cage is, I think, actually the hardest one, because that one is not a square. You have to like work a circle. Because with a ring, if you get like kind of trapped in the corner, you can find like a way out somehow. But with a cage, you can't. Like, that's just the corner. There's nowhere else to go. And the pit was actually the first one that I did for ICW in Chattanooga. So that's also tough too, because the camera people, especially with like a cage where there's like, you know, those interlocking links, they have very specific areas where they could only go. So I would say for cameras, yes. I'm actually going to be debuting for Fight Pro on Sunday. And they just sent me like a whole list of very specific rules. So they're like not pure rule based like at Ring of Honor, but they seem very strict. So that's one example, and we'll see how well I adapt to that. I definitely have to study their material too. But yes, I think it does depend. You know, for Ring of Honor, you had to do that lock up before and afterwards. There's also kind of like a little bit of a difference with how you get into the ring, because there's like a separate area for referees, whereas the independents, there might not be. So, you know, it's also depending on like what the setup is of the arena.
Yeah, I mean, I found that interesting at Ring of Honor, because it seemed to me like in general, you know, before the matches where the referee might come down with a wrestler and then they'd wait, and then when the cameras came on, you know, then all of a sudden the ring announcer takes over and introduces the person in the ring. They call down the second person, the music hits. But all of that just feels like, you know, you always have to know where the cameras are and what the timing is. And I imagine it could be a little stressful.
It's not too bad. Luckily, the radios do help a lot. So on the independents, I mean, you know, it's like, I think it's probably a little bit more stressful sometimes. Like, there are people who go super, 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 super long, because like, who's really there to enforce it? What's nice about Wrestling Open, for example, is that they do protect that more so of like matches going like really long by 10-minute time limits. So I think that time limits do really make a big difference. And that's why I like promotions that generally have those.
All right. Joe McDonald says, "Evening, kids. Lewis, long time no see." Yeah, about 48 hours. And Eric Hunting.
Eric says, I know you're 100% professional, but have you ever found yourself getting sucked into the match because it's such a good match?
Oh, good question.
Oh, that's a good one, because it's just so good. I would definitely say the TLC one that I mentioned before. They also did just like a regular singles that went on for like 40 minutes or something like that. Because the wrestling was just like very good. I'd say that as of recently, oh gosh. That's going to be a hard one, so I might have to come back to it. But yeah, there are times where like I get really, on Saturday, oh my God, at LVAC, let's hang out over in Pennsylvania. Speedball Mike Bailey versus Leo St. Giovanni, is that how you say LSG? That was a good one that I got sucked into. But I think that's kind of like when I referee the best, is like when I'm very involved in it. I'm like, oh God, like what's going to happen? Like that's going to be exciting. So sure, we'll go with those. But there's always really good matches.
I thought that main event at BST that you were refereeing was really exciting. Like, there was like a big match feel to that, and for so many reasons. But I just thought, I'm just invested in all of the competitors who were in that match. I thought that was a super cool venue also. Like, I don't know if you've ever worked in that venue before?
No, but I was saying that to El Ref Miguel as well when we got there. I was like, wow, this is really nice. Don't have to worry about ceilings.
Yeah, right.
It's
right.
very open and spacious. And they have like a kind of like a nice setup where everybody could see it. Sometimes you could get to a venue where the seating situation is not great, especially if like the ring is lower. So not like as many people can see, especially if they're stuck in the back where there's like tall people in front of them, etc.
Right.
But yes, nice arena. I'm excited to go back.
Jack.
Yeah.
I guess it was a lie.
Uh-oh. You lied
Wrestling
again.
trivia is here. All. And just wrestling trivia is once again brought to you by Alternate Universe LLC, where tomorrow is New Comic Book Day. Make sure you stop in and see Eric and the guys. Get your new comic books from Eric. Even if you can't make it down to Milford or New Haven, make sure you stop there, call them up, and they will mail you your comics. Eric Yako and the gang at Alternate Universe LLC, and they will get you your comics, graphic novels. Old school trivia is in the house. This week's question, Jack, are you ready? It's an easy one. It is. It's an easy one.
Okay.
Gina, are you ready? Gina just muted her mic.
Oh, no, I'm here. I just don't know old school wrestling very well at all. So.
All right. So it's nice and easy. It's not really that old school. In what year did Monday Night Raw first air? In what year? No Googling, anyone.
Okay.
That means you,
hands
Mr.
are
Eric.
up. Hands up. Hands up. That's a really good question because that was around the time that the 1, 2, 3 Kid and Razor Ramon were blowing up, right? I mean, I want to. Oh man, I want to say 1990, but I don't know if I'm right about that. Let me just
think a little bit earlier.
Yeah,
87.
I don't think it's 87. I'm gonna say 90. I think it's either 89 or 90, but I'm gonna say 90.
And you are wrong. It is. It is 1993.
Okay.
1993. And our guest coming in, Eric Hunting, says 1993.
Oh, good job, Eric.
Uncle Joe McDonald says he'd say 1993.
Okay, good job, Joe.
Oh,
and
Harry
from BST.
Harry, 1993.
Harry. Now, I do have to say, Harry and Kevin both know because they've been in contact with our sponsor, Eric Yako.
Okay.
They know where I've been. I've been radio silent. I have not been calling Kevin. I have not been in contact with Harry. They know I've been gallivanting all over God's creation with Eric Yako. So they know I have not been MIA. And the Faces and Heels podcast will be doing something special with BST at Alternate Universe LLC soon. Am I correct, Harry? I know you guys know what I'm talking about. Joe McDonald also says I only know that because I got married and moved into my home. Well, that's like that's Lewis brains. Harry knows what I'm talking about. We are working on something. Eric and I and Kevin and Harry were working on something going on at the Milford store.
Maybe I'll get some information about that.
Hey, brother, you know how I'm doing it? And Harry comes in and says, yes, you are. See, brother, I'm not leaving you guys high and dry. I got a lot of ideas for you cats up in my head. But as you guys know, I've been busy all summer long, shaking babies and kissing hands. So back to you, Jack, you loser.
Wow.
Don't even know 1993.
Yeah. I got a real selective ability to remember stuff like that.
Dates are always like so hard for me to history class.
Yeah, no, I mean, you know.
So Harry, maybe we can get Gina to come to the store too. How about that? We got to have a ref there.
Sure. Just let me know which day.
We'll Harry or Kevin will let you know.
Okay.
Because Jack's in the dark right now. Only the important people know what's going on.
Right. Yeah.
Well, you know,
sorry, Jack.
Well, Lewis, one of us has done a signing at Altered Universe, and one of us hasn't. So, yeah,
one of us is on the mic there, bringing people in. One of us promotes it
You're
and brings
repelling
people in.
most of the time. You're too loud.
I'm what? I'm what?
Repelling. That means to like send people.
No, I am not
out.
repelling people. I'm bringing the people in. When I promote an event for you, did you make the most money at a signing? Well, there's not a con that you ever did. Yes. Thank you.
Oh man. Well, anyway, let's focus on our guest here.
And Joe McDonald says, "Do you need Hope to kill Jack's mic?" No, I can do it myself. See, I got it. Don't worry about it.
Nice job. Nice job. So Gina, here's a question. You could be as forthcoming or dodge as much as you like, but I'm just curious about it because, again, like everywhere that all the promotions that I'm excited about, you've worked for. So how does that happen? Do you like reach out? Do you have some kind of a reel and you're like, hey, I'm Gina, here's what I do? Or is it just, Ring of Honor hears about you from Wrestling Open and they're like, hey, we'd like you to come down for Collision?
For Ring of Honor, it was someone who reached out to me, which was really cool. And other promotions, I usually, it depends. Like I'll reach out. Sometimes they'll also ask me. I do always have like an infographic resume on hand that I could send to people. Even if they ask me to show up, I'll be like, all right, cool. In case you wanted to look at anything, here it is. I mean, it's different for refs because I don't know if there's like any reels of us like,
oh, we can put one together.
3 count, So it's usually, I'd say for referees, a lot like wrestlers, it's like the list of promotions and the particular matches that you have done and the type of matches that you're comfortable refereeing, along with your years of experience, will usually be kind of like a top quality to your resume.
Yeah, but
Gina,
I mean, go ahead, Liz.
I'm sorry, Jack. I just got a quick question. Family and friends, what did they think when you told them you were going to get into the square circle and actually that not be a worker, but be a ref, that you were going to get in there with people 3 times your size and be the boss? What were their reaction?
My dad thinks it's great because he loves wrestling.
Good.
So he doesn't care. Well, I mean, he does care, but not, so much about.
No, I get what you're saying.
Oh my God, you're going to get hurt out there. My mother was kind of like, are you going to get hurt? But then once she came to a show and saw like what it was like, she was like, oh, okay. Some friends were cool with it. I was actually some friends with a couple of wrestlers at the time who were very supportive. And there's some friends who still have yet to figure it out. So yeah, but I usually get like a crazy amount of questions about like, if I tell somebody, it's like, oh, so like, do you do like, the high school gym refereeing, or do you do like, whatever stuff? And I was just, so you'll get like questions like that. But generally I'd say that some are supportive. Some don't understand it whatsoever, but that's okay too.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Good question.
Everybody's different.
Yeah.
I wonder too, because we've even had some wrestlers on over the years who have mixed feelings about this kind of question. But like, do you have an ambition, like say for instance, just to run a theoretical by you, if WWE contacted you and said, we'd like you to come for a tryout, and if the tryout went well, you'd be traveling the world 4 days a week until this gig ends. Like, is that something that you would entertain?
I think I would probably be more interested in AEW Ring of Honor, just because I feel like the way that they kind of do their shows are more interesting to me. Being at NXT would be really cool, but you would also be stationed in Florida. Yeah, I lived in Florida for 2 years, and it's kind of like a rough time. But I mean, at the same time, I think it's very flattering that some people would, reach out to me and ask. But in particular, I think I was more of a non-WWE person when I was kind of growing up. But of course, I started with that product a little bit later on in life, though, like when I was like 15 or so, but still grew up with wrestling. And I was like more interested in Impact and like Ring of Honor and things like that. So And I thought it was so interesting because I think I was like driving in the car with Marcus Mathers once. We were getting some doors that they would use for DPW, and it was probably like a month before I was invited to come down for the tapings. I said, it'd be so cool if I could ref a Ring of Honor, and then I was able to do it. So so I would like to work for them. I think that'll be really cool. But of course, there's a lot of really great options out there. And I think that's kind of nice for wrestlers and people in wrestling, is that there are options and a lot of different ways that you can do wrestling. I mean, even if you look at like GCW, for example, they're a pretty global product at this point, and they're also seen as an independent company. Deadlock Pro is like that too. They went to Japan recently, and I'll be at Deadlock Pro for a couple of shows coming up. So there's a lot of different options.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like, do you feel like, or I guess some of our fans know where you are every Thursday, for instance, but do you travel, all over the country to ref, or are you primarily stationed only in the Northeast at this point?
It seems like it's the East Coast. I was in Tennessee recently, and I'll be going back to the Southeast area in December. So I was out in Pennsylvania last weekend. But yeah, I haven't gone out further west for wrestling. I think that'd be cool to give that a shot. But generally speaking, I want to live in the East Coast, so it's probably more natural that I would pick up independent bookings there. But yeah, there's still a lot of things to explore.
What's the one match that you want to ref that you haven't had a chance to ref yet?
I would like to try a Pure Rules match. I saw a really good one with Tracy Williams and Austin Luke at Marcus Mathers All I Want at H2O in Williamstown, New Jersey. And I thought that was actually like really well done. Ref Adam Galt is also a friend of mine who I also look to as a mentor. I watch a lot of his stuff too. And the way that he was able to do that Pure Rules match made me think it was achievable. So I think that would be really cool. In terms of like people, it's a pretty long list. Mostly people who I know who I just never ref their matches before. But I think I've done like a good amount of different variations of matches, but I haven't done something like that before. And at Fight Pro, even though it's not Pure Rules, it's very close to being strict rules. So it'll be kind of cool to try that out and see how it goes.
Okay.
Jack? Yeah, I think something interesting it's really been significant over the last maybe year, 2 years, at least from my perspective, has been really a lot of the positive changes in pro wrestling, like not only in the locker rooms, but just in, say, for instance, the presence of women. So it isn't just that there's women performers who are, not always getting the equal shine, but you're seeing more of the women's matches, but also the women you're seeing on commentating, the women ring announcers, the women referees, of course. And then not only that, but something that we talked to Delmi Exo about a little bit was the acceptance of intergender matches. How do you feel about that? Do you feel like in your time in the ring, you've seen positive movement for women in the industry?
I think I came into wrestling a little bit later on the intergender movement. So I was already benefiting, I think, from breaking that barrier, from people, I would say like probably like 5 to 3 years before me. So it was just normal. And I would also watch intergender matches too. I think by the time that I was thinking about getting into wrestling, it was starting to become more common. But it is also specific to promotions as well. I mean, I'm starting to see intergender stuff less so now because there's just a strong women's division that it could just pretty much stand on its own in a lot of places. But I think the intergender matches are fun. I mean, Becca had a really good one with Jimmy Lloyd at ETU a couple months back. So that was exciting to see that. But yes, I think that a big thing is like seeing a lot of like women broadcasters and commentators is a big part of it. Referees, of course, but I'm thinking that there's just not too much interest from women to be refs as compared to wrestlers, which makes a lot of sense. But I still see some new faces popping up every now and then, which is great.
Yeah, I mean, like Alyssa Marino, I think is a great example of someone who's who's not only obviously really skillful but versatile, like
Yes.
yourself, like you're talking about
Yes.
wearing a lot of different hats, and not everybody can do that. So I feel like people like you and Alyssa are really kind of pioneers for a lot of what a lot of women haven't done, or at least maybe we as fans aren't aware of how much
Mhm.
goes on and how many different hats some of these people wear.
Yeah. If anything, I would like to see more women get into the tech side of stuff because it's virtually like, not a lot. But I also get that like camera work isn't very glorious. It's also very hard. I think it's probably like the hardest job that I've had in wrestling so far. But, there's still some untouched areas of wrestling that could use some more women influences. That would be really cool to see. But yeah,
Go,
more female refs too. Great.
right. Going back to the intergender
Yes.
matches, do you see a lot of crowd negativity or do you see a lot of positivity?
I think at this point in time, it's just a norm. I don't think many people, especially if they go to that particular promotion, would be like shocked that there would be an intergender match. I think for the most part, when you get those fans buying a ticket to Blitzkrieg, for example, they'll expect like, all right, cool. Grind, that's also another one.
Hmm.
Cool. I think that in the Southeast, what's interesting about intergender is how much they've embraced it. And a lot of the times that they'll just boo the guy in that situation because they just want, the woman or the non-male to basically just like win. So in the Southeast in particular, that pocket where TWE is in action, they have a good amount of intergender matches that probably don't get as much buzz. But it's a very common occurrence in that area. And I think it's just embraced pretty much by a lot of people. Some who are negative about it have their reasons to be, which I don't agree with. They don't like it. I think it's, it's still wrestling.
Hmm.
I think Brandon Kirk, for example, is probably like one of the best people I've seen out there having intergender matches with, it doesn't matter what gender it is. And he's just like, okay, cool. And they'll have like some great matches. Him and Zicky Haim at one of the H2O shows, had a blast. Becca's also a really good intergender wrestler. Delmy, intergender as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there's just some people who are like, all right, you're a competitor. We're going to do it. And it's just a match.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Wolfie says, would you like to see a revival of the territories for women's promotions?
I think just territory promotions in general is like super cool. There was like at the beginning of like 2022, kind of like that Northeast versus Southeast situation going on when Uncharted Territory was airing. That didn't really go off the ground quite much. But to have it for women would also be really cool too. So I'd say like a revival of territories in general would be awesome. Women would definitely be like the icing on the cake for that. Be interesting to see how that would occur, especially with a lot of like women-centric promotions becoming more popular, I'd say currently.
Do you find, I mean, I know you're primarily in the Northeast and you talked about that, but do you find that when you go somewhere like, say, Nashville or somewhere in Tennessee, do you find that just as a female referee, there's a difference with the crowd, or is it just crowds are crowds no matter where
Yeah,
you
the
are?
crowds are crowds. Yeah, I think that, if anything, I think they're more appreciative of me
Yeah.
in the Southeast, but that's just because you don't really have like your variety of referees that you would have in the Northeast. The Northeast is pretty congested with a lot of different talent. So you're used to seeing like a lot of different people, whereas in the Southeast, not as many wrestlers, not as many wrestling schools, a lot of distance in between things too. Some people can't do like a 6-hour drive, which is probably normal for some to get to a show. So yeah, I feel like I'm home every time I'm back in the Southeast. The fans there are really awesome.
What
Nice.
was the worst? I know we're getting close to the top of the hour. What was the worst match you ever ref?
Uh,
Oh, look at the look on her face.
no, no.
Holy moly.
The worst
Not
way.
your not yours. It's just where you had no cooperativity whatsoever.
Yeah, I think that
That's what I'm saying. I mean, not your performance,
where
not
things just
your
kind of like fell apart.
yeah. Well,
Unfortunately, it does happen every now and then, especially if you go to promotions where they have like looser rules about stuff.
yeah.
Um, I was like kind of hot. I feel really bad saying this, but I was pretty hot about the trios match that happened at Blitzkrieg with Miracle Ones and Young, Dumb, and Broke because it just got like so off the rails. So I was angry about it, but then when I watched it back and I saw how much the crowd really liked it, I was just like, okay. So a lot of the times you have to kind of like put those biases aside, especially if you work for promotion where like, hey, we're going to have like these types of matches. Not to say that Blitzkrieg doesn't have like very super serious matches. They absolutely do have super serious matches. I think Alec and Andy Brown later that night, that was a killer. But sometimes like, especially if you go to like shows where you have that variety, you might just go in with an expectation of like, okay, everything's going to fall into place here. But yeah, they just went really hard. And I felt like I got in the way a couple of times because they're just like going so fast and so much. But I wouldn't say it was a bad match at all. It was just kind of rough for me in there because it was just like, oh my God, I can't like keep them together. And sometimes that does happen. Sometimes.
All right, what was one more quick question, Jack, before you wrap up? What was the best audience reaction, whether it be a laugh or an whoa, from a comment that you made to one of the people you were trying to?
I think the most recent one was with Jay Malachi at the Futures tournament in Tennessee. He was bothering me the whole time before the match was starting, and he says, "Could you open the ropes for me?" I'm like, "Sure." So I just lifted up the bottom rope for him and just stared at him, and like people loved that. I thought it was very funny.
That's awesome.
Good luck at your tryout.
So I don't know if you're like a list maker or a box checker offer or anything like that, but if you're looking towards the end of 2023 and 2024, are there goals in your site that you're thinking about, or is it just kind of taking things as they come?
I would like to do another Ironman at some point. I would like to get out to the Pacific Northwest. There's some people I know out there who I like to work with. And some promotions I think I might be able to get onto. I also never really been out that far west, so it'd be kind of nice to see it. I would say that the Wrestlevel coming up at the end of the year is going to be big. I got a lot of shows that I'm doing that weekend,
Nice.
so it's going to be another marathon. And it's cool because there's a lot of newer promotions who are coming to that area as well. And yeah, do a pure rules match. I can't ever say that right. Would be really cool. But yep, just branching out and trying the best I can. Also, do more TV tapings. That'd be really cool.
Yeah, right. Like I want to start another Gina chant that you actually hear at an AEW ROH show.
That'd be fun. And Thomas, I see your comment. The Pacific Northwest is awesome. I love West Coast. I love Prestige. I love Roseland. And I should probably get more familiar with other things. There's just so many cool wrestlers out there. Daniel Makabe, Nicole Matthews, Amira, who I'm starting to see more of her stuff in Judas Icarus. So many like awesome people who I definitely like want to work with. So thanks for the shout out from the Pacific Northwest. You guys are awesome.
Nice.
Wolfie, you did good.
Yeah, good job, Wolfie. All right. So we got less than a minute, and I don't want to shortchange you, but where can some of our listeners and viewers see you in, say, the next month?
Okay, so I will be at Doubleheader coming up. Well, besides Wrestling Open, I'm finishing up my tenure with them in September. I'm just subbing in for the month, and whenever they need me, I sub in. So that's on IWTV, Worcester, Massachusetts. I'm doing a doubleheader in New Jersey at the H2O Center on Saturday. So that's ETU. Then ICW No Holds Barred afterwards. Fight Pro tapings will be the day after, I think at the Monster Factory. And then they'll be produced and put on IWTV later. I know I'll be at Deadlock Pro. That will be in Richfield Park in New Jersey in October. And then I'll be down in North Carolina the following month. Limitless, their I think 8-year anniversary is going to be next Saturday, and that's like the first time I've been to Maine, not Massachusetts, in like 3 to 4 years. So that'd be exciting to go back to. There's a big calendar of stuff going on, but I would definitely say that those are some big ones coming up soon on IWTV.
Awesome. Well, we always enjoy seeing you on IWTV and all the promotions. I hope and I'll see you back at Blood, Sweat, and Tears in November, because I know that's coming up.
Yeah, I'll also be at Blitzkrieg in October too for Fall Children.
Oh, nice. And that's their first show they're running in Holyoke, Mass. So you'll be back in Massachusetts.
Yes, I'm excited for that one for sure.
Yeah,
I will be at BST in November.
Okay. All right. Awesome.
Hopefully we'll see Brogue Finley there, because he's also trying out for WWE this weekend. So I hope that he's still at Blitzkrieg in Holyoke. But anyway, we're out of time. So I want to thank you so much for being here. It was really fun talking to you. I hope you had a good time. And
Jack, where can they find some art?
Yeah, where can we find some art?
Well, as you mentioned, we could go to the angrygeekshow.com, and if you scroll down far enough, you'll find some Jack Purcell art gems hiding over there. You could also go to Jack Purcell Inc. INK. I'm on Instagram and Facebook. I do post some stuff there. I'm on Threads. I'm not sure anybody cares, but I'm doing some stuff over there. And you can find me at a lot of live pro wrestling shows. I do have a line of trading cards where there is soon to be a Gina Monti and Bill Thompson for my first 2 referee cards. There'll be black and white stripes on the back. It's going to be fun. Nice. So yeah, if you're at pro wrestling shows, I'm going to be at Grime, Blood, Sweat, and Tears, Blitzkrieg, and God knows where else, whoever invites me. I know Test of Strength is somewhere I'm going to be as well. So and this guy over here.
Oh, you can find me each and every Monday night streaming live right through the interwebs on the Angry Geek Show, where I bring you the best in celebrity interviews from Marvel and DC Comics, interviews with this guy. I am out there with that Wonder Woman, Jamie Dolan. We're just rocking and rolling. Contropolis Tour 2023 is just about over. We're rolling to get to Rhode Island Comic Con. We got guests coming up on the Angry Geeks. We got one big one. Is he a former X-Men? Whoa, you don't know, but stay tuned. We're going to be coming up, and we're going to be advertising the hell out of that. And maybe we got some people from the Star Wars universe going to be live streaming with us. We don't know, but check us out on Pod TV, Roku, Amazon. Watch us. I'm Lewis. That's Jack. That's
Johnny
Gina.
Torres next week. Yay!
Johnny Torres next week. But you can find the audio version of this wherever your favorite podcasts are found. You have been watching The Angry Geek Show on Pod TV. Visit our website today. And for guest bookings, email us at theangrygeekshow@gmail.com today.